Yes, you're gonna have people turn their backs, but it's time for us to keep it real. Just keep talking that real, bro. Do what you do. I know what you do, so keep doing that. Talk the real.
The HBI lads will see you now. See you now. See you now.
I don't want to cause no problems. I just want to live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense.
And we're back. HBI podcast, health, business, and in between. My name is Dr. Nathan Bridger. I'm a chiropractor and strength and conditioning coach working out of North Fremantle Chiropractic in North Fremantle, Western Australia. And I am joined by the dangerous duo, starting at the bottom, the man, the myth, the still, well, what's what I want to use? Microphoneless, because eBay is an absolute pain in the ass. Myotherapist, Mina Garris. When will they deliver your sweet goods, mate?
I don't know. Hopefully soon, so I can.
I reckon he's lying, eh?
Or is that classic? Like we're like, no, I definitely sent it. I sent it.
Can I see it?
No, we believe you, mate. We believe you.
He's angry about that. He's not happy about that.
He said he's missing car parts.
Lie,
you know, if he's missing car parts, it's serious, right?
It's serious.
And then, of course, the third member of the dangerous duo, well, trio. I don't know why I said duo. The man who always has to have money in the background for some reason. Maybe it hides that horrendous haircut.
It does.
Physiotherapist, Ben Humphries. How are we, my man?
I'm fresh. I'm feeling good. What about you, bro? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Busy.
Good.
But
You tired?
you know, I've had more sick baby, so we're just loving life. But today is going to be a perfect one to get me back in action. And I brought this to the boys because it's time. It is rant.
For the rant.
We're getting ranted up today. And
Let's do it.
actually, funnily enough, this builds off. I think we may have spoken about this previously, but a while back, Ben ran like a poll on his Instagram looking at essentially who you would see for rehabilitation or for exercise work, right? And do you remember who the choices were there, Ben?
Bro, everyone remembers this. This must have been quite influential. I was on my way up to Cobram real late at night one time and I was doing this. Anyway, it was like, so we're looking at public perception and who the public would go with. So it's basically, if you were to go see someone for a gym program, who would you go to? And it was like an exercise physiologist, a personal trainer, a physio, and then like a strength and conditioning coach. I reckon they were the four choices.
Yeah. And the winner by a long margin was?
Personal trainer.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, so common perception.
Heaps.
But like 70% or something, right?
Yeah,
like
dominated.
Which is unfortunate for ex-phys because they actually are the rehab specialist, essentially. That's what they're trained to be. But then strength and conditioning coach, again, I think it's just public perception and misunderstanding. But your point there was that people don't expect or go to physio for necessarily strength training or rehab stuff there. And I would say for me as chiro, it's probably even more present. I think I'm quite unique and that's a big part of what I do. And then Mina, I'm not sure about with Myo, it's probably a similar thing where people don't go there expecting to get training and training understanding. Would that be right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
it is. You keep going.
This leads us back round into our rant, right? Because I think I'm going to preference this today. The reason we have problems with this and public perception with this is there seems to be an idea, and I can speak for chiro, and Ben, we already spoke, it's definitely happening for physio, where people think that by going to uni and learning, it instantly qualifies them as a movement expert or a barbell movement expert, all these kind of things. And when the truth is, it's an experiential thing, right? Yes, the education gives you an understanding, but until you experience it, you have no right to tell people how to do it. You know, it's that kind of thing. So here we go, full circle. This is where I am mad. So
context on this.
Very good friend of mine. Shout out to Jason Lim at Movement Hub Gym in Hilton.
Yeah,
Jason is an exercise physiologist, runs a really amazing gym there. And so he has a picture online of some of his members doing what's called a Jefferson curl. So if anyone who doesn't know what this is, you're essentially standing on like a platform or a box or a plate, and you are then flexing the spine. So it almost looks like, think of the worst position you could be in for a deadlift, like full back bend all the way down. So it's designed to actually strengthen and mobilize through the flexion position. So we're trying to get flexion tolerance to protect ourselves because there's no such thing as bad movement. There's just appropriate movement, right? So they're standing there, three of his members, they're holding a kettlebell down. And so they're working on that through there. So one of my brethren And I say that
Brethren,
with just
brotherhood,
just stay.
the boys.
Akara has messaged him, and I'm going to read this message.
Oh, he's
and
not
he
the boys.
says-
This guy's not the boys.
He is not part of the boys. He says, "Hi guys, I came across this picture and was wondering if you thought it was safe to perform, given that axial and shearing forces cause disc herniations." Wait for it. "I'm a chiro, looking at your page to see what other professionals I can refer to. I'm just concerned about the nature of the movement. Thanks."
What a
Now,
fucking dig.
For a start, douche canoe. But like, there's just so many issues with it. First and foremost, because I stalked this guy out, and I won't name and shame him, but I did. His actual clinic's about an hour away from my mate's gym, which means he was just trolling around looking for something he
In
didn't
a
like.
city as well.
Yeah, like miles away. Two, his description of what causes herniations and then the look of this movement are not the same thing. And three, that kind of like fragile mindset is ridiculous. Now, I also stalked this guy's history. Has no background in barbell work or anything like that. He's a runner. No offense to you runners.
Ooh.
But if you don't know how to,
Ooh.
like, no one comes to me for running advice, right? Like, because the fastest thing I run to is the buffet. But
It's like asking Rulan for running advice.
exactly, right? So it's just like, don't put your opinion where it's not warranted. But Ben, do you want to give people a bit of a breakdown of why what he said doesn't even make sense?
As you mentioned, like the context of the whole discussion was the biggest thing for me here is like, who's got the audacity to message someone that they don't even know to like covertly hostilely, if that's a word. I don't think it's a word, but basically it's like a hidden sort of
hostile
hostility.
approach.
Like
Yeah,
a
it's
passive
like
aggressive, like
passive aggressive.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's basically a hidden sort of hostile sort of move to then go and say, you know, he got it wrong from a biomechanical
one.
standpoint, but also to then go, well, I was like looking for potential referrers here, and now that basically by you putting up this post and completely out of context, it basically knocked this guy off the list. I'm just like, mate, if you got a problem with it, fine that you've done a direct message, but maybe get your facts straight, and two, shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
Like-
and it's sad because it happens all the more too often.
All the time, bro.
And
Keyboard warriors.
we had a
kill me.
similar situation with Chelsea, and she was brand new, you know, and had some, again, won't name and shame, but had someone from probably someone we know approach her and tell her, oh, you know,
tell us, bro.
supraspinatus ligament doesn't do that. It's a stabilizer of the shoulder. She's like, well, I'm talking in brief terms to the general public, and they're not going to understand the medial aspect of the blah, blah, blah. You know, it's purely, and this is why we do it. So if you have a concern, and even what he told her was absolutely incorrect anyway.
Yeah.
And this guy deals specifically with the shoulder. So it was quite sad to see that. And so if you've got advice, or if you've got a tip, or you're concerned about something, nothing wrong with say, hey, this is my opinion, this is what I think. Can you just give me some background as to why you did what you did?
Yeah,
Because
like
maybe there's something
questions
I
are
don't know.
fine, right? Like I've reached out to many people and be like, hey man, I
Encourage
don't
it.
understand. I don't understand the exercise. Can you explain to me? I'd really like to know more, rather than just going full douche. Like, I mean, what is the thing is, when you look at this situation, like we said, it's not a unique situation, even though I wish it was.
Example, yeah.
You know, like it's one of a litany of examples, but it's just like, what are you hoping to achieve? You have no intention ever of creating a business relationship because you're not in the same radius. You're trying to get people offside. And I mean, listen, the reason this really burns me up, and I was talking to another colleague about it. Oh man, is, you know, one of my big goals is trying to create an awareness for the use of chiropractic through sports, through rehabilitation, through training. And because frankly, we have a bad reputation for it, and it's stuff like this that puts us back, right? This is just archaic misunderstanding. Someone who's clearly not done some continuing education in the last 50 years and still thinks that they hold some kind of like social positioning over someone who is an actual rehab expert. Like by title, like, man, come on!
I know.
Like, be better.
And it's a complete, as you mentioned there, like it's a personal gain in some twisted way, and a massive social signaling sort of communication message that he's trying to send. It's like, and this as I said, this is just the example, but it happens to me all the time, bro. Like people feel the need to throw their 2 cents into, you know, the content that you're producing off your own back. And sure, if you run a business, then you will be potentially generating clients from this, and if the information is misleading or incorrect or damaging or whatever it may be, sure, you can have your 2 cents, but man, like,
If it's
before you do it, don't look like a dickhead. Like,
Yeah.
at least have your context correct. At least have your argument.
Ask the question. I'm just like, hey man, I'm just confused about what you said here. I thought it was like this. Like, I think most of us, you know, in an attempt a lot of the time to try and make information consumable to the general public, right? This is one of the other issues we see with a lot of even social media, where people make it too medical, so people don't get it. So you try and dumb it down, and you intentionally, in one context, try and dumb something down so people get a context, like some understanding to help them, right? You're trying to empower people, and people get on the high horse about it, like you were saying before, Mina. Like, no, it's actually on the lateral medial aspect of this, and it's like, it doesn't matter, man. People just need to know that it's here and it does this thing, and this is how we help it, right? So
Absolutely.
Before you jump down the tire, listen, if people are saying things that's actively harmful, and I'll be the first to admit I've gotten to the stage now where I get like Facebook marketing at me, and they say actual lies, and I report them to Facebook as spam, right? Because it's damaging. But if people are just making an innocent mistake, or if you check with them in a polite and manner, because people are happy to chat, and then they are an absolute douchebag about it, maybe. But I think you would find if this guy had come to my mate and been like, hey man, I don't understand this movement. I was always sort of, you know, trained that this is a concern for this. Can you explain to me why we do it and how it works? Jace would have been too happy. Jace loves that stuff. He would be like, yeah, man, absolutely. Let me explain what's going on. And that would have actually probably made this chiropractor's practice better, because he might have stopped thinking that the human body is so fragile that, you know, simply moving a deflection makes your spine fall apart. But it would also make, you know, the future for his patients, for the people around him, it was an opportunity missed for education, empowerment, and connection. And instead it was just, luckily Jason's a good friend of mine and already has a good feeling about chiropractic, because otherwise he just would have lost an entire community to what we do.
Absolutely. I think Mina touched on it. You touched on it as well. Like, the content you produce is completely up to you, right? As the owner of it and the content producer, and it all depends on the context in which you're delivering it. Now, if you're using your Instagram page as a personal branding, client acquisition, whatever standpoint, then of course you're going to put the contextual content on there, which will appeal to your audience. Now, if you're planning to be an educator, then sure, you put out some stuff with some medical jargon, you know, allied health jargon, whatever. You're pitching to your audience. But if your audience on there is your consumers, your clients, of course you're going to not dumb it down as such, but you're just going to make things a bit more understandable for the target audience. Now, if you think of this, right, like, and this is the problem we all have with keyboard warriors, and I've been guilty of this maybe a few times, but in person, right, if you'd never met a person and you saw them doing a Jefferson curl in the gym, would you walk up to him and go, mate, what the bloody hell are you doing? You're going to bloody blow your back out. Or would you just simply probably A, say nothing because it doesn't affect you in your life, or B, go up and, as Nathan said, ask a few questions. But I don't think off the bat, if you were face to face with someone, you would naturally go up and just say, look, the things that he said, right? It doesn't make sense.
I agree, but I also feel I feel like I feel the pain that many of my female friends have told me of, like, going to the gym and getting someone come up and mansplain them stuff. So I finally get it, girls. I've just had my moment where I fell through the toilet because I left the toilet seat up, but I understand it from a movement or undue information thing right now. But yeah, like you're right. You're not going to, even I've had times where, like, if I stand in the gym, I see a myriad of people that I'm like, hey, we could make that better. We could do this or do that. But I'm not going to walk up and be like, yo, what's up? Did you know I'm a chiro and I could make you better? Like, I'm not like going to stand next to them and just drop a card. Oh, no, I've just dropped this next to you. Oh, no, I'm here. You're moving like shit. Like, it's just not what we do, right? So
humans
people forget that,
like that
digital and reality are one and the same in a lot of ways now. And if you often have said this. I've had a couple of run-ins over the years with a few of the keyboard warriors, and it's like, hey, love to chat about this. Let's catch a coffee. Like if that line scares that person, then they know they've done something wrong. Because if you weren't willing to say it to the person, you shouldn't have said it online.
Exactly right. And it depends, right? Now, I've been also that dude who will comment on things publicly as a public platform for everyone to see. Now, I will do that when people put out incorrect information. Sometimes I'll hit them on the comments so everyone can see it, because I'm trying to use it as a bit of an example. But rather than like directly roasting the person and go, well, I think the information you've given is incorrect, and here's my reasons why. And then I'll use that as a public platform. And then B, I'll hit him in the DMs with a voice message. Hey, bro, don't mean to be offensive, and I apologize if I am, because I did this recently to a few dudes in America who are physios trying to be fucking strength conditioning coaches. And I just said, look, I think what you said is wrong. And basically it was wrong, and there wasn't anything to back up what he said. I said, you're invalidating people I know in different industries by making these certain claims about cupping, this and that. I'm like, mate, the only thing that you're trying to gain here is a personal gain. Like, what the fuck are you trying to do? Like, by preaching out against a certain intervention, it doesn't make you look better. And it's not rational, and doesn't actually make sense from a business standpoint or a professional standpoint.
Yeah. A similar situation. I had a client just come to me, he came to me and he goes, you know what, this didn't kind of work for me. And my new therapist said to me that manual therapy was never the answer.
Ooh.
I said, that's okay. And I'm happy to take it on board. Get your physio to call me.
Yeah.
Take me through everything, because if I've made a mistake, I want to own it, and I'll even talk about it on social media and re-educate.
Exactly.
Right? Just so to make sure I'm not doing something incorrect. That's if I've done something incorrect. All right? And the work leading up to...
Doesn't know who you're friends with, mate.
That's true, doesn't know who I have. But like, it happens also on a daily basis, and we always want to get it right, yeah? So it's like, if we've kind of diagnosed them correctly, it could be a test that we weren't sure of, or something that, sometimes things take time. We don't always get it right in, 2-3 treatments, right? And then all that work you've done leading up to the next person, well, you've just figured out their process of elimination. And it's quite easy to get it right from there. But I said to them, look, don't go and badmouth me. If I've done something wrong, tell me, like you have.
Be a man.
That's right. Be a man. Tell me exactly what. Link that physio with me, get him to take me exactly through, and we'll do a bit of a case study on you to see what I've done versus what you've done, and we'll see if there's a correlation.
Absolutely. Exactly. And that's like being the bigger man there. You're definitely you're turning someone's fucking dig at you into like, well, let's try network, and I'll meet you and we'll smooth it over, and then you send me clients.
Well, they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it.
Yeah, douchebags, I know,
it's
bro.
Being professionally secure, right? Like anybody that shits on another profession is just insecure about their own abilities. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
That is now the headline of this episode.
That's good. It was like when I was for example, this last week, Mina, Sean saw a bloke that I saw last week, and I gave him a bit of an update what was happening, and it wasn't from the standpoint of like, bro, you did this wrong, and you could have done this better, and you did this and did that. It was like, hey, bro, just for your information, and I would appreciate if you did the same for me. And this is not a personal dig at you at all, but I just want to give you an update with what's happened with this client. And it becomes a learning piece and an educational piece, because I'm not the douchebag who could have just like trashed him behind his back. I'm like, I barely know the bloke, but he works with you and he seems like a fantastic dude. I'm like, why would I trash this dude even further and then like to the client, and then not say anything at all to the practitioner? Like, A, he doesn't learn from that, and B, the individual gets really offside with the person.
Yeah.
And like the third one there is bearing in mind, like you may be the second practitioner to see someone, and the natural history may be an elevation of symptomatology that no matter who they saw first up,
clearer.
Definitely has helped. But at the same time, the pain hasn't changed. They may be moving better. All these other things are going on. But if you're just focusing on the pain, you're like, well, then they're like, oh, do you think it's hurt me? People be like, oh, it could have. You're like, no, there's no scientific background in that. now you're just talking shit on someone, and now you're potentially putting someone at risk because you're not confident enough to be like, no, this is a normal thing, but I will communicate with them and see what's going on, and we'll make sure things get sorted. Simple.
It's a bit of
Right?
fucking decency. That's what that
Yeah,
is.
right.
Yeah, and
we need
it's
a bit more
happened.
of that.
Like I've received so many people's clients, even like people from you, Betty. It's just like, well, for me, I always help people understand. Look, it's not the physio's fault or your fault or my fault. It's about where you're at right now, right? And that might not have worked for you 2 weeks ago, but it might have taken 2 weeks to get better. And after you've seen me, you feel better. So it's not about the job they've also done wrong. They assess you, they diagnose what's going on, they have a clear understanding of where you're at, and then they perform their duties. So based on your clinical presentations at that point, that's where you are. That's where you are.
Exactly.
And for me, like, you know, if you're after a long, deep tissue massage service, that's not what a physio does. Like if you have an issue or concern, they'll apply the manual therapy where applicable. I go, but it's your fault for not understanding who does what. You know, a physio does this, a chiro does this, an osteo does this, a myo does this. So as you experience through your treatments, you come to learn. All right, cost you money sometimes, but that's
It's part of the deal. Education has a cost.
And it happens
I think if we,
all the time.
Yeah, I think if we wind it in today, I mean, the big thing today, just remember, like, don't be a dick.
Yeah. Don't do it. Work together.
That's simple. Like, be better, bring everybody up around you together, and we're just going to be in a better spot. So there it is. As always, I hope we had a good one today. Make sure you're the better person, know your role, and work in with good people. As always, we appreciate taking that screenshot, throwing it up, tagging us in. We love to see them on the gram. And always, wherever you get your podcasts, leave us a 5-star review so we can stop the douche canoes from doing these things. It's been a pleasure as always, boys.
Always, man.
Brother.
See you,
Thanks,
boys.
guys.